Sophia was known throughout Lagos as the beautiful heiress with unimaginable wealth. She came from a family that had worked hard to build their empire, and as their only child, she was set to inherit everything. Men were always around her, dressed in their best suits, flashing their brightest smiles, and speaking words that sounded like poetry. Sophia, though, was no fool. She saw through their flattery and knew they wanted her money more than her heart. She'd nearly given up on finding someone who would love her for who she was, not just what she had. But then she met Benjamin. Benjamin worked as a branch manager for one of her family's companies, a responsibility her father had entrusted to him. He seemed different, unimpressed by her wealth and focused on his work. Benjamin was kind, polite, and thoughtful, treating her just like he would treat anyone else. Unlike other men, he didn't shower her with compliments or bring her extravagant gifts. Instead, he listened to her dreams and even laughed at her silly jokes. Over time, Sophia found herself thinking about him more often. They went from casual conversations to spending more time together at company events and dinners. Benjamin's charm made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, which is hope. Hope that she might have finally found someone who cared about her, not just her bank account. Her friends and family weren't so sure. "Sophia, be careful," her best friend Lisa would say. "He's too good to be true. Don't rush into anything." Her parents echoed the same warnings, reminding her that she had a lot to lose and that Benjamin might not be as genuine as he seemed. But Sophia waved off their concerns. "He's different," she'd insist. "I know what I'm doing." Soon Sophia and Benjamin became inseparable. He made her laugh, made her feel safe, and treated her as though she was the only person in the world. Benjamin proposed to her one quiet evening in a small garden filled with candles, and Sophia felt her heart flutter as she said, yes. She was certain she was marrying her soulmate. Despite the whispers and her family's pleas, she married him. She loved him, and that was all that mattered. At first, married life was everything Sophia had dreamed of. Benjamin was attentive, always making her feel special. He would bring her breakfast in bed, hold her hand during walks, and even talk about starting a family one day. Sophia thought she had won the love she'd been searching for all her life. However, as time passed, she noticed small changes in Benjamin's behavior. He started spending more time at work and took long business trips. When he was home, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly, and rarely had time for their conversations. But Sophia brushed it off, convincing herself that Benjamin was simply busy, maybe even stressed with the added responsibilities of managing one of the family businesses. One night, as Sophia lay alone in bed waiting for him to come home, a worrying feeling started to creep into her heart. She wondered if the people she trusted the most, her parents, her friends, had been right. But she quickly pushed the thought away. She loved Benjamin, and she wanted to believe he loved her too. Besides, the little things didn't matter. They were just a part of married life, she told herself. Lisa, her closest friend, had always been Sophia's confidant, someone she could lean on and share her troubles with. Sophia hoped that Lisa would come around and accept Benjamin with time. But each time Sophia mentioned Benjamin, Lisa would look away or change the subject. "Just be careful, Liv," she would say. Sophia laughed off her friend's warnings, insisting that Lisa had nothing to worry about. But deep down, she couldn't deny a small seed of doubt beginning to take root in her mind. For a while, life continued as normal. Sophia kept herself busy with charity work, trying to distract herself from the uneasy feeling in her chest. Benjamin was there, just as he had always been, yet somehow it felt like he was slipping away. But whenever Sophia tried to bring it up, Benjamin would laugh and hug her close, brushing away her concerns with a kiss. "I'm right here," he'd say. "You have nothing to worry about, my love." Sophia wanted to believe him, but sometimes even words of comfort couldn't quiet the doubts within her heart. Still, she reminded herself of the life she had chosen. She had trusted Benjamin enough to marry him, and she wouldn't let fear ruin the happiness they had built. One rainy evening, Sophia's life changed forever. She was coming back home from a charity event, the roads slick from the downpour. Her driver could hardly see through the windshield, the wipers doing little to clear the pouring rain. She was just a few blocks away from her house when suddenly, a speeding car appeared from a side street, slamming into her car. The next thing Sophia knew, she was lying in a hospital bed. Her world was covered in silence and darkness. No sound, no sight. Panic gripped her heart as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. She wanted to call out for help, but all that came out was a weak murmur. Doctors rushed in to assess her, and though she couldn't hear them, she could feel their touch, their presence. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and loneliness. She learned from gentle touches and a nurse's carefully guided hand that she'd lost her sight and hearing from the accident. Her world had shrunk to a silent, pitch-black space, leaving her dependent on others for everything. The once independent Sophia was now vulnerable and isolated, trapped in her own mind. Benjamin came to visit her in the hospital, but something about him felt different. Gone were the tender words and the comforting touch she'd once known. Instead, his presence felt cold and distant. She could sense it even without her sight or hearing. The once gentle hand that would stroke her hair now felt like a quick pat, and the hugs that had once made her feel safe were now brief and hollow. After several days in the hospital, she was discharged and brought back home. The house that had once been filled with light and love now felt empty and cold. She couldn't see the comforting decor, couldn't hear the sounds of the city outside her window. All she had were her memories, which she clung to as a way to pass the long, silent hours. Days turned into weeks, and Sophia noticed that Benjamin rarely spent time with her. He would leave early in the morning and return late at night, sometimes not at all. She would lie awake, waiting for him to come back, but he never came. Sophia's heart ached with a loneliness she hadn't known before. She had given up everything to be with Benjamin, and now he seemed to be slipping further and further away. Her only visitor during these bleak days was her best friend, Lisa. Lisa would come by regularly, sitting beside Sophia, holding her hand, and occasionally helping her around the house. At first, Sophia was comforted by Lisa's presence. Lisa had been her rock, her voice when she had none. But over time, Sophia noticed subtle changes in her friend's behavior as well. She'd hear whispers of footsteps, soft laughter, and voices too close together, though she couldn't make out the sounds. She knew something wasn't right, even if she couldn't see or hear the full picture. One evening, as Sophia lay quietly on the couch, she sensed someone approaching. The familiar smell of Benjamin's cologne filled the room, but instead of comforting her, it made her tense. She felt Lisa's hand leave hers abruptly, followed by what she thought was the sound of low, hurried whispers. She tried to turn toward them, but Benjamin brushed her hand away, telling her in the gentlest way possible to rest. The next morning Lisa was gone, and Sophia's suspicions grew stronger. Lisa would come by, sometimes staying for hours even when Benjamin was away. At times, Lisa would arrive late at night, her presence lingering longer than it should. Sophia wanted to confront her, but how could she accuse her best friend of anything without being sure? Days became harder for Sophia. Her husband and best friend acted more and more like lovers. When she would reach for Benjamin, his hand would pull away. When she tried to embrace him, he would stiffen. The house felt colder, and Sophia felt like a ghost, haunting a life that no longer felt like her own. There was one evening that finally pushed Sophia's growing suspicions to the edge. She lay on the couch, unable to sleep, when she smelled both Lisa and Benjamin cologne near her. Their conversation was quiet, almost inaudible to her heightened senses, but the way they moved and paused told her everything she feared. She felt them move close, too close, and then something happened that made her heart shatter. The unmistakable feeling of betrayal hung in the air, heavier than any silence. Though she couldn't see or hear them clearly, Sophia's heart knew. Lisa and Benjamin were sharing a bond that no friend and husband should have. She wanted to scream, to ask them how they could do this to her, but she stayed silent, helpless in her world of darkness and silence. Tears streamed down her face as she lay there, unable to escape the pain they were causing her. The days that followed were unbearable. She felt trapped in her own home, her sanctuary turned prison, with no escape from the bitter truth she now suspected. Benjamin and Lisa continued their love life, moving through her life as if she weren't there. They would walk past her, laugh together, and ignore her completely. They even went ahead to have sex right in front of her. They treated her like she was invisible, a part of the background, unable to comprehend the betrayal that was unfolding right before her. Sophia was furious but helpless. She wondered if her family had been right all along. She had married a man who seemed kind but was only interested in her wealth. And the friend she trusted the most, who had warned her about the dangers of marriage, had become the very person who shattered her heart. Days passed, and Sophia's world became a prison of suspicion and heartache. Each time Lisa visited, Sophia could sense the tension in the air, the shared glances and whispers between her husband and best friend. They had betrayed her trust in the worst possible way, and Sophia's heart ached with the weight of their betrayal. Then one evening something changed. As Sophia lay on the couch, tears quietly streaming down her face, she suddenly became aware of her surroundings in a way she hadn't before. A faint glimmer of light seemed to press through the darkness, a small sensation of warmth reaching her eyes. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized she could see. The faintest blur of color and movement hovered before her eyes. She held her breath, afraid that it was just a fleeting trick of the mind. But it wasn't. Sophia's vision was slowly returning, and with it, a faint ringing in her ears. Sound was coming back too. For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. She dared not tell anyone, not yet. She knew exactly what she would do. She would keep her recovery a secret and watch as the truth about Benjamin and Lisa unraveled before her. Over the next few days, Sophia pretended to remain in her world of darkness and silence. She stayed as still as ever, yet her senses were sharper than ever before. She observed Benjamin and Lisa's interactions carefully, making sure they never suspected her newfound sight and hearing. Each day, she pieced together their betrayal, little by little, while she continued to play the part of the helpless, blind heiress. One morning, when Sophia was lying quietly on the couch, she saw Lisa enter the room with Benjamin trailing behind her. They exchanged glances, clearly believing she was oblivious to their presence. Sophia held her breath as she watched Benjamin approach her. He leaned down to Lisa's ear and then kissed her, then proceeded to make love to her. Right there in front of Sophia. Her heart felt as if it had been ripped from her chest. Unable to stand their deceit, Sophia fought to keep her composure, her fists clenched. She reminded herself that she needed to wait, to gather more evidence and figure out their true intentions before confronting them. Then, one afternoon, her patience paid off. As she sat by the window, pretending to be lost in her thoughts, she overheard a conversation between Benjamin and Lisa in the next room. She concentrated, listening intently, and managed to catch snippets of their conversation. "Did you get her to sign the documents?" Lisa whispered urgently. "Not yet," Benjamin replied, sounding irritated. "She's always hesitating. But it doesn't matter. Soon enough she'll sign everything over. And once she does, we're taking it all." Sophia's heart raced. She couldn't believe the extent of their plan. Benjamin was trying to steal everything she owned, the properties, the businesses, even the house she lived in. And Lisa, her best friend, was helping him every step of the way. As they continued discussing their plans, Sophia's mind raced with possibilities. She had to act fast. She couldn't let them succeed in taking everything her family had worked for. And yet, she couldn't let them know she was aware of their schemes just yet. They believed her to be helpless and unaware. She would use that to her advantage. The next day, Sophia called her lawyer in secret, taking great care to be as discreet as possible. She requested copies of all the important documents, business contracts, property deeds, and financial records. She would make fake copies of these documents, identical to the originals, but worthless. If Benjamin and Lisa wanted her to sign over everything, then that's exactly what she would give them. Fake documents that would leave them with nothing. As her plans began to take shape, Sophia felt a strength she hadn't felt since before the accident. Her heartbreak and anger transformed into a steely resolve. She would not be defeated by those who sought to hurt her. Instead, she would turn the tables and let them walk right into her trap. Benjamin continued to bring her documents to sign, and each time, Sophia played her part perfectly. She pretended to fumble with the pen, her hands shaking slightly, acting as though she couldn't tell what she was signing. With every fake signature she placed on the documents, Benjamin's confidence grew. He and Lisa became bolder, more open about their intentions when they thought she couldn't hear or see them. And Sophia's resolve only grew stronger. One afternoon, Lisa came over with a stack of papers, claiming they were just routine updates that Benjamin needed Sophia's signature on. Sophia noticed the triumphant glint in Lisa's eyes, the subtle smirk she wore as she handed Sophia the pen. It was clear that Lisa believed she and Benjamin were finally on the verge of success, that they would soon be free to claim everything for themselves. Sophia signed each document, knowing full well that they were nothing more than worthless copies. She felt a surge of satisfaction each time her pen met the paper. Let them think they'd won. Soon they would realize just how wrong they were. As the weeks passed, Sophia continued to play her role, all the while working behind the scenes to secure her assets and put her plan into motion. She knew it was only a matter of time before Benjamin and Lisa would try to throw her out, believing they'd left her with nothing. And Sophia would be ready. One evening, as Sophia lay in bed, she heard Benjamin and Lisa whispering in the next room. She strained to hear, her heart pounding as she caught fragments of their conversation. "Tomorrow's the day," Benjamin was saying. "We'll tell her she has to leave, that the house is ours now. She'll be out on the streets with nowhere to go." Sophia's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to remain calm. Let them try. Tomorrow would indeed be the day, but it wouldn't end the way they expected. With one final glance around her home, Sophia allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. She had prepared for this moment, setting everything in place to reveal their betrayal in the most satisfying way possible. As she drifted off to sleep, her heart was lighter than it had been in weeks. Tomorrow the truth will come out, and Benjamin and Lisa would finally understand the cost of betraying her. The morning dawned, gray and gloomy, a perfect reflection of the storm brewing inside Sophia's heart. She knew that today was the day Benjamin and Lisa planned to rid themselves of her for good, but she was ready. She lay still, pretending to be oblivious, as Benjamin entered the room with an unusual coldness in his eyes. Lisa trailed behind him, her gaze sharp, as though she couldn't wait to see Sophia's downfall. "Sophia," Benjamin began, with a tone that was so devoid of warmth that it chilled her. "We need to talk." She stayed quiet, watching him closely from beneath her lashes, her mind focused and alert. "Sophia, I've made some decisions," Benjamin continued, forcing a sympathetic tone that felt like a slap in the face. "You've had a hard time since the accident, and I think it's best for everyone if you find somewhere else to stay. Lisa and I will help you pack your things." For a moment Sophia said nothing. She didn't move, maintaining her facade of helplessness, knowing it would make them bolder. Benjamin cleared his throat, casting an awkward glance at Lisa, who stood at his side with a look of smug satisfaction on her face. "Everything is already set up," Lisa chimed in, crossing her arms. "Benjamin has made sure you'll have somewhere, modest but comfortable, to go." Sophia felt a wave of rage at Lisa's condescending tone, but she forced herself to remain calm. Instead, she let out a soft, sad sigh, pretending to be confused. "But this is my home," she whispered, keeping her voice shaky. "Where would I go?" Benjamin exchanged a quick, triumphant glance with Lisa. "We'll help you," he said, his voice dripping with false kindness. "We've taken care of everything." Lisa moved closer, placing her hand on Sophia's shoulder, and for a split second, Sophia felt the full force of her betrayal. Here was her best friend, the person she had once trusted with her deepest secrets, now eager to throw her out of her own home. Sophia nodded, still pretending to be resigned to her fate, while deep down she was brimming with satisfaction. Little did they know that they had just walked right into her trap. Benjamin and Lisa quickly began packing her belongings, not bothering to hide their smug smiles and whispered laughter. Sophia watched as they grabbed her clothes, jewelry and personal items, stuffing them into bags with the clear intention of taking her things for themselves. Once they had gathered everything they wanted, Benjamin approached her with a stack of papers in hand. "Just a few last things to sign," he said with a thin smile. "It's only legal stuff. Formalities." Sophia hesitated for effect, then took the pen with a trembling hand, letting them think she was weak and confused. She signed each page slowly, glancing up now and then to see Benjamin and Lisa's eyes gleaming with excitement, completely unaware that every document they held was a worthless fake. They were on the verge of celebrating their so-called victory, and Sophia savored the moment, knowing it wouldn't last. Finally, as Benjamin folded the last paper, he stood up and gave Sophia a mocking look. "It's done," he declared. "Everything is officially ours." Just then there was a loud knock at the front door. Benjamin and Lisa both turned, confusion flashing across their faces. Sophia remained seated, her heart pounding as she realized that her moment had come. "Who could that be?" Benjamin muttered, exchanging a nervous glance with Lisa. Lisa shrugged, looking equally uneasy. She shot Sophia a suspicious glare, but Sophia just blinked innocently, feigning ignorance. Benjamin opened the door and strode two police officers, their expressions serious and unyielding. Behind them was Sophia's lawyer, Mr. Adissa, his face grim as he surveyed the scene before him. Benjamin's eyes widened in shock as he stammered, "What's going on?" The lead officer stepped forward, his gaze sharp. "Mr. Benjamin, we have reason to believe you've committed fraud and theft against Mrs. Sophia. We're here to investigate and gather evidence." Benjamin froze, the color draining from his face as he looked back at Sophia, who now stood up, her expression calm but fierce. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice trembling. She met his gaze, letting the weight of her anger and betrayal show in her eyes. "Oh, don't look so surprised, Benjamin," she said, her voice steady. "Did you think I was so blind and deaf that I didn't see through your lies?" Benjamin and Lisa stared at her, both looking as if they'd been struck. Lisa's face twisted in anger, and she stepped forward, her voice rising. You tricked us." Sophia nodded, smiling with a strength she hadn't felt in months. "I heard everything, every word, every plan. I know about your plot to steal my wealth, and I made sure you wouldn't succeed." The officers began examining the fake documents Benjamin had gathered, their expressions hardening as they confirmed Sophia's story. Benjamin turned to Lisa, his face etched with panic. "Lisa, we were supposed to win. This was supposed to be ours." Lisa just shook her head, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Benjamin, I thought we had everything under control." Sophia watched them crumble, a sense of justice filling her heart as she realized that they would finally face the consequences of their actions. The officers placed handcuffs on Benjamin and Lisa, who both struggled and protested, shouting and pleading. Benjamin looked back at Sophia one last time, his face a mask of desperation. "Sophia, please. I made a mistake. Give me another chance." But Sophia just shook her head, her voice unwavering. "You had your chance, Benjamin. I gave you everything and you threw it all away for greed. You've lost, and now you'll face the consequences." The officers led Benjamin and Lisa out of the house, their voices fading into the distance as they were taken to face the justice they deserved. Sophia stood in the doorway, watching as the people she had once trusted were driven away, leaving her in the quiet peace of her home, the home that was rightfully hers. As the sun began to set, Sophia returned to her living room and sat down, feeling the weight of everything she had been through. Despite the betrayal, the lies, and the heartbreak, she had survived. She had fought back and reclaimed her life, refusing to be a victim of their deceit. Her lawyer, Mr. Adissa, approached her with a reassuring smile. "You handled that with such grace, Mrs. Sophia," he said softly. "It's over now. You can start fresh." Sophia nodded, though her heart still ached with the memories of what had happened. She was free, yes, but she had also lost people she had once cared about deeply. As she sat in the quiet of her home, Sophia thought of the future and the possibility of rebuilding her life, one step at a time. She had been betrayed, yes, But she had also proven to herself that she was stronger than any challenge, stronger than any betrayal. And with that strength, she would move forward, ready to start anew. Did you enjoy this story? Let me know in the comments. Your comments mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching. Till we meet again, lovelies.